Chapter 1. The Dream. The engine starts. And the sound doesn't just reach your ears, it reaches your identity. A deep growl. Mechanical confidence, the kind of sound that makes strangers turn their heads before they even see the car. You're 25 years old. And you just signed the papers for your dream car. The one you've been watching on YouTube for years. The one you've configured online 100 different times. The one you promised yourself you'd buy when you finally made it. And now, it's yours. The salesman shakes your hand. The keys are still warm from his palm when he places them into yours. Outside, the sunlight reflects off the paint, as if the car was designed specifically for this moment, for this version of you. The version that escaped being broke, the version that finally earns a real paycheck, the version that no longer has to look at price tags first. You slide into the driver's seat. The leather smells expensive. The dashboard glows. The steering wheel feels substantial. Like success itself somehow became physical. As you pull onto the highway for the first drive home, one thought keeps repeating in your mind. I finally did it. For the first time in your life, you feel like you're moving forward, like you've crossed an invisible line, like you've become somebody. What nobody tells you is that becoming somebody and looking like somebody are not always the same thing. But that lesson is still years away. Right now, the road is open, and the dream feels real. Chapter 2. The Attention. The reactions begin immediately. Your friends notice. Your coworkers notice. Your neighbors notice. People who barely spoke to you before suddenly have questions. What does it cost? How fast is it? Can I drive it? You don't brag. You don't have to. The car does it for you. You find yourself taking the longer route home, parking where people can see it, glancing back every time you walk away from it. You tell yourself you're simply appreciating something you worked hard for. And maybe that's true, at least partly. But underneath that feeling is something quieter. You enjoy being noticed. You enjoy the validation. You enjoy the way people look at you differently. The car becomes a shortcut, a way to communicate success without saying a word, and for a while, it works. A woman you've liked suddenly seems more interested. Co-workers ask for your opinion more often. Friends joke that you've become rich. Even your parents look at you a little differently. Not dramatically, just enough to notice. And that small change feels incredible. You mistake attention for achievement. Most people do. Because from the outside, they often look exactly the same. Chapter 3. The cost. Then the first payment arrives, then the second, then the third. And gradually something changes. The excitement fades faster than the bills. The monthly payment still hurts. Insurance still hurts. Fuel still hurts. Maintenance still hurts. Tires, oil changes, registration, unexpected repairs. The dream keeps sending invoices every month without fail. At first you adjust easily. You eat out less. Skip a vacation. Delay replacing your laptop. Cancel a few subscriptions. Nothing dramatic, nothing catastrophic. Just little sacrifices, small compromises, tiny withdrawals from future experiences. Each one feels insignificant, but together, they begin to reshape your life. You notice you're saying no more often. Not because you want to, because you have to. The car occupies a permanent section of your financial life, a reserved seat at every paycheck, and slowly, almost invisibly, your freedom begins shrinking, not all at once, just enough to feel it. Chapter 4. The Comparison. At 27, something uncomfortable happens. Your friend buys a house, not a mansion, not a luxury property, just a modest home, a small backyard, room to grow, the kind of place nobody takes photos of. the kind of achievement that doesn't attract attention online. Yet somehow, it hits harder than anything you've seen on social media. Because your friend makes roughly what you make, you start asking questions, quietly, and you discover something surprising. He invested consistently, every month, no dramatic moves, no lucky breaks, no secret strategy, just patience, just discipline, just years of choosing tomorrow over today. You open your banking app, then your investment account, then your loan balance, and for the first time, you calculate what your car has truly cost, not the sticker price, the total cost, payments, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and opportunity. The number stares back at you, cold, objective, unemotional. Math has no interest in your feelings, and the math isn't flattering. You realize the car hasn't just cost money, it's cost options. Options you can never fully get back. That realization stays with you long after you close the calculator. Chapter 5. The realization. At 29, the car is no longer special. Not because anything is wrong with it, because you've adapted to it. The same thing that once felt extraordinary now feels normal. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. You call it Tuesday. The excitement that once justified every payment has quietly disappeared, but the payments remain. The car that once made your heart race is now transportation, nothing more. And that's when the truth finally lands. The happiness wasn't in owning it. The happiness was in anticipating it. The dream lasted longer than the reward, and now you're left maintaining an expensive symbol that no longer produces the feeling it was purchased to create. The applause ended years ago. The bill didn't. Chapter 6. Letting go. 3 months before turning 30, so you sell it. The process is surprisingly ordinary. Photos, messages, test drives, paperwork. Then one afternoon, someone else drives away in the car that once felt like your future. You expect regret, you expect sadness, you expect to feel like you're losing part of your identity. Instead, you feel something else. Relief. Not dramatic relief, not immediate relief. Just a quiet lifting. Like carrying a backpack for 5 years. And finally setting it down. You buy a reliable used car. Nothing exciting, nothing impressive. Nobody compliments it. Nobody asks questions. Nobody takes pictures. And somehow, that's exactly the point. For the first time in years, your money starts moving toward your future instead of your image. The difference feels strange at first. Then it becomes addictive. Watching investments grow becomes more satisfying than watching strangers stare, because one of those things compounds. The other disappears the moment the traffic light turns green. Chapter 7. The truth, you are 30 now. And the funny thing is this. You don't regret buying the car because it was a bad car. It was incredible. You regret buying it for the wrong reason. You thought it would make you feel successful. You thought it would make you feel respected. You thought it would prove something. But objects cannot provide permanent answers to emotional questions. They can only distract you from them temporarily. What you really wanted wasn't horsepower. It wasn't leather seats. It wasn't attention. It wasn't admiration. You wanted certainty. You wanted confidence. You wanted proof that your hard work mattered. And none of those things live inside a vehicle. They live inside choices, inside habits, inside investments, inside the quiet decisions nobody sees. At 25, you believed wealth looked like ownership. At 30, you understand that wealth looks like freedom. Freedom to leave a bad job. Freedom to take opportunities. Freedom to sleep peacefully. Freedom to choose. The dream car gave you moments. The financial freedom you delayed would have given you options, and options are worth more than moments. Every single time. You don't hate your younger self. You understand him. You know exactly why he signed the papers. You know exactly what he was chasing. You just wish someone had sat beside him before he did and asked one simple question. Are you buying this because it reflects who you are, or because you hope it will convince other people? 5 years later. That's the question that changed everything. And once you know the difference, you'll never look at expensive status symbols the same way again.